Hello, and welcome to Mind and Body Matters, understanding mental health through a biopsychosocial lens. Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel, and today I want to talk about something I think is really important in social work, understanding how a person's biology and environment can both affect their mental health. As social workers, we often focus on a person's emotions and experience, but mental health is much more complex than that. Our biology, our environment, and our life experiences all work together to influence our mental well being. This is known as the biopsychosocial approach, and it reminds us to look at the whole person rather than focusing on a single part of their life. One important biological determinant of mental health is genetics. Research has shown that people with a family history of depression, anxiety, or other mental health disorders may have a greater risk of developing those conditions themselves. Having a family history of mental illness doesn't automatically mean someone will develop a mental health disorder, but it can increase their risk, especially when stressful life experiences are added to the mix. Mater and Windelspecht, 2022. Another biological determinant is sleep and chronic stress. Most of us have experienced periods of stress, but when stress becomes chronic, it can have serious effects on both physical and mental health. Chronic stress keeps the body's stress response activated and increases the release of cortisol, which can contribute to anxiety, depression, sleep problems, and difficulty concentrating. Chetri et al. 2021. Poor sleep can also affect mood regulation and make it harder for individuals to cope with everyday challenges. In addition to biological factors, social determinants of mental health play a major role in overall well being. One important social determinant is poverty and financial stress. Individuals who struggle financially often experience increased stress related to housing, food, employment, and access to healthcare. Constant financial stress can contribute to feelings of anxiety, hopelessness, and depression. Another social determinant is access to healthcare. Many people face barriers such as a lack of insurance, transportation problems, or limited mental health services in their communities. This is especially true in rural areas where resources may be scarce. When people can't get the help they need, their symptoms can continue to get worse, and it can make recovery feel almost impossible. Burton et al. 2026. Working in healthcare, I've seen firsthand how these barriers affect people. I work with many older adults, and they often talk about how difficult it is to to get to appointments or find the support they need. Sometimes they seem like they just need someone to listen and point them in the right direction. Those experiences have really shown me how closely mental health and access to resources are connected. To better understand mental health, it is also important to understand the role of certain brain structures and neurotransmitters. The amygdala plays a major role in processing fear and emotions. When a person experiences stress or trauma, the amygdala becomes activated and triggers the fight or flight response. In individuals who have experienced chronic trauma, the amygdala can become overly sensitive, causing them to remain in a heightened state of anxiety or fear. The hippocampus is another important brain structure because it is involved in learning and memory. Chronic stress can negatively affect the hippocampus and make it more difficult for individuals to regulate emotions and process traumatic experiences. Mater and Windelspecht, 2022. I can relate to this personally because I have experienced periods of chronic stress while balancing work, family responsibilities, and going back to school. During those times, I noticed changes in my sleep, mood, and energy levels. It really showed me how much stress can affect both physical and mental health. Another important factor is serotonin. a neurotransmitter that helps regulate mood, sleep, and emotional well-being. Low levels of serotonin have been linked to depression and anxiety, which is one reason why certain medications target serotonin to improve symptoms. As social workers, it's important that we use treatment as approaches. As social workers, it is important that we use treatment approaches that address both biological and psychosocial factors. One approach that does this well is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. CBT helps individuals identify negative thought patterns and replace them with healthier and more realistic ways of thinking. CBT can also be combined with mindfulness-based practices, exercise, and stress management techniques to address both the mind and body. Research has shown that CBT and positive coping strategies can improve long-term well-being and increase hope among individuals experiencing anxiety and related disorders. Long et al. 2025. I think understanding these concepts make us better social workers because it reminds us to look at the whole person rather than just one problem. It reminds us that mental health disorders are not simply the result of poor choices or lack of motivation. Many factors, including biology, environment, and life experiences, influence a person's mental health. This knowledge also helps reduce stigma. When we understand that factors such as genetics, trauma, chronic stress, and social conditions contribute to mental health concerns, we are better able to approach clients with empathy and develop interventions that address the whole person. Finally, understanding biological and social determinants of mental health helps social workers advocate for change. We can advocate for better access to healthcare, increased mental health resources, and policies that address poverty, housing instability, and other barriers that affect well-being. Mental health is complex, and no single factor tells a whole story. At the end of the day, the biopsychosocial approach reminds us that mental health is complicated and that every client has their own story. Looking at the whole picture helps us provide better support and advocate for the resources our clients need to be successful. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Mind and Body Matters. I hope this discussion has highlighted the importance of understanding both the biological and social factors that influence mental health and why this knowledge is so important in social work practice. See you next time.